All right, guys. Thank everybody for tuning in. This most certainly was a nail biting game. It was one of those games that you're supposed to win, but you didn't coach up right. It was one of those scenarios whereas we had to win in our hand, and momentum counts for everything. Thank everybody for tuning in. We have a full show today. This is the Dallas Prospect Show. I have Derek on the other end. Derek, go ahead. What's your thoughts and your feelings on this game?
It was definitely a game, tale of two halves here. In the first half, Dallas's offense looked well in control, marching down, field goal, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Took in a nice little lead into half. I think 24-16 was the score. They just couldn't keep the momentum going for whatever reason. Came out flat in the second half. Rams came charging back, and then end of the game, we just had some sloppy play. Obviously, the Travis Frederick hold wipes out the 2-point conversion that would have tied the game. Terrence Williams then more or less drops a second attempt at a 2-point conversion. And, he had another drop then on that last drive, that last desperate drive trying to win the game. So disappointing to say the least. I don't know why T. Will struggled as much as he did. I don't know if he just kind of got into his own head after feeling like he let the team down earlier, but not a good showing from him. And I feel like for the most part, he'd been pretty solid when we had gone to him this season. So hopefully he can put that behind him.
Yeah, it was a few plays that I kind of watched, and I was like, man, the first and foremost, the Ryan Switzer fumble. I understand
Mm-hmm.
he wants to make a play, but at that time, it wasn't needed for him to make that play. You up by what I don't know if I forgot the score, but you're up by so many points at this time. Your defense just managed to get a quick 3 and out. All you have to do just catch the ball or let the ball bounce and let the field win for you because you're on the road, well, you at home. And then
Yep.
beyond that, there was a sack fumble by my guy D Law, and I'm just looking at Tyrone Crawford just looking at the ball, not even just dazing at the ball, not even ball or security or ball awareness. And that could have flipped the field in our favor because now we have the ball maybe at the 9 or maybe at the 8. Even if we get 3
Mm-hmm.
points out of the deal, we would still win out for that drive. And then all of a sudden they kicked the ball for 62 yards. That's a hell of a punter. I forgot his name, Hecker or something like that.
Yeah.
That guy kicked a 62-yard punt and kind of got us back into our own half of the field. And we had a good drive, a good run by Zeke. And then my guy Dez, the ball goes right through his hands. It was a third and medium distance. And the momentum was gone at that point, So it looks like Coach Gary got outcoached by a 31-year-old person, It's just crazy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a disappointing conclusion to a game. I don't know where the sloppiness and everything was coming from. Obviously, Dez, had his own share of mistakes. What you mentioned earlier, the Switzer fumble. Switzer is so eager right now to make a play. I think he's being over aggressive because you're seeing a lot of instances where today alone, where the Rams would kick it, he would receive it in the end zone and then run it out every time. Well, if you just take the knee, you start the 25, and in every instance, it seemed like he was attempting it today. He would only get to about the 20. And, so little things like that, the Rams had 7 field goals and they have, let's see, 1 or 2 touchdowns. I think 2 touchdowns to go with those 7 field goals. So you had a lot of opportunities and those yards add up.
Right. We don't want to bury Switzer.
No, no, no.
I'm not saying that you are, but what I'm saying is collectively, a true kickoff returner is the Rams kickoff returner, Farrell.
Mm-hmm.
That guy got a next level speed. Now, a true punt returner, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think that collectively, Switzer is more of a punt returner. He's not a kickoff returner. That's a 2 different type of speed. And Switzer is fast, but he's not that Farrell like the guy on the opposition. He's not that type of speed fast. He's more of a punt guy. So by him just trying to take it out, I said, even if he does break it, somebody's gonna run him down. He's just not that. He's quick. He's more quick than fast, and that's what you need on punt returns, not on kick returns.
Yeah, absolutely. The other story I feel of the game that we knew going in without Sean Lee, we were going to be thin at linebacker. I think we carried only 4 linebackers into the game. You're suddenly asking Justin Durant, who had played 30 snaps in the season until today. You were basically asking him to basically go out there and play the full game. Still, you're trying to, Jalen Smith, I know he's really impressed thus far with what we've seen. I know he racked up a whole lot of tackles today, but it's one of those things where you're just having to push these guys out there when their, previous dosage of plays wasn't all that high. Sean Lee, by contrast, had 233 snaps compared to the 32 his replacement filled in for today. And I think that showed, especially as the game wore on, as the Rams took a page out of the Cowboys' book, started eating up the clock and just, making the Cowboys defense do something. Todd Gurley was huge today, 123 rush yards, 94 receiving yards, and a touchdown. I mean, he basically out-Zeked Zeke in this game.
And man, that golf, man, he got one hell of an arm on him. I'm telling you, he was on his back foot. He was rolling out, and he's not that fast or shifty of a quarterback. And I saw him pass the ball off his back foot, and he, although it wasn't completed, but he overshot the guy by 10 yards. I said, damn, that guy got an arm on him. But he's precision. His precision is good. He reminds me so much of a young Peyton Manning / Troy Aikman. Not trying to boost up golf, but their offensive line protected him well, and they was coming at us, man. They didn't give up. I like the coaching that they did with number 11, getting him out in space, number Austin. They didn't have no excuse. Tavon Austin. And then this Cooper Kupp kid that I was looking at, I was like, man, Cooper Kupp is just eating us alive, So it's just one of those things, man. This defense is our kryptonite at this point. I told you guys earlier in the season that I have reservations on them, and it come to show, a lot of reservations on this defensive backs,
Right. So how are you feeling about Dak in particular today?
I mean, I think Dak did.
Because I know the voices are getting loud there. The criticism is.
Somebody said, bring back Romo. But, hey, guys, Dak, this is his second year. And then on top of that, not trying to create excuses for him, that play that Aaron Donald kind of pulled him down and he stayed up on his feet, Romo would have been on the crutches then. He would have been on the cart,
Yeah.
So we got to understand, man, this guy's his second year, and although he got outplayed by golf or what have you, it just goes to show you golf was a first round draft pick. So it's one of those things that we just going to have to learn through, and hopefully maybe mid this season. I would rather for us to start off slow like this than to look like this in November, or look like this in latter part of October. So it's we still got a lot of room to grow. No excuses, but it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, him and Goff, their stats were almost identical. Jared Goff, 21 of 36 for 255 yards, 7.1 in an attempt, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Dak, meanwhile, 20 for 36, 252, 7 in attempt, 3 and 1. I mean, the quarterback rating wise, it's Jared Goff 98.7 and Dak 93.8, just because of the 1 pick.
Yeah, the turnovers. Can I win the game when we had 2 turnovers? How many turnovers did we have?
Dak had the pick. I'm not sure if there was a. Oh yeah, you had the Switzer fumble. So at least those 2.
I mean that changes the complexion of the game altogether. But like I said, there's no excuse, of course, for Dak Prescott. At one point we were praising him for his good play, but at the same time, it's just one of those things. He will have to learn to feel the pressure in the pocket and know that he's not going to be able to make every play. So sometimes you live to fight another day. And my only thing last year, I think it was a blessing in disguise. Believe it or not, I trust me. I know I'm getting a lot of hate mail. When Dez Bryant went down, last year, I think that it opened up the mind of Dak Prescott. Now I'm looking at it from the aspect that he kind of, excuse me, guys, my voice is going in and out, but he kind of leaned too much on Dez, you know, and Dez is just not the guy that you can just lean on all the time.
Yeah, I agree. You don't want to be over dependent on your number one option. And yeah, Dez since 2014, since the end of 2014, he's kind of been a little inconsistent. He'll have these games where he'll kind of put the team on his back. That charge in the playoff game last year against Green Bay, he really kind of put the team on his back, as so did Dak, and kind of led the team back into it, rallied back, just fell short. But yeah, you've also had a lot of games. Now Dez was pretty good today. I mean, he had a couple mistakes that hurt, but 5 for 98. Certainly a strong showing there compared to games wherein he had just over 100 yards cumulative. So I don't know what to make of it. I don't know if I certainly don't think he's on like a last leg of any kind of dominant run or anything, but I do think it's something where maybe you need to stem your over reliance on him as the number one option. I think you need to find a way to get more out of Williams and Butler and, to another extent, Beasley.
Yes, indeed. And flipping over to the defensive side, now can we all say that Taco is pretty much inactive?
Yeah.
Pretty much he's out there, but guys, I'm telling you, I got all type of hate mail and all type of people saying, hey man, Taco Charlton this, Taco Charlton that. Man, I'm telling you, Tapper, I don't know what's going on with the coaching staff. I do notice a political situation where they don't want to say, hey, we made this type of mistake. And this is just not me overreacting. When I looked at all the films, I don't see any push coming from Taco. Maybe week 7, week 8, maybe he can pick up some things, but to a full degree, this is not the time to experiment. Put Charles Tapper out there and have these these offensive tackles to have to worry about a speed rusher coming off that side. At some point, coaching staff have to make that change and just swallow the pride.
Yeah, I agree fully on that. And one thing that's going to help is you're going to get more support coming on the defensive line next week. We're going to get back Irving, so that'll be a big lift there. You're also assuming that by sitting Sean Lee out today, that you're going to get him back to full health. I think that'll have a big impact as well down the season, because the whole point of this was you didn't want it to be a nagging injury. You would have liked to have him out there, but you don't want to risk not having him at 100% or having him in and out of the lineup as the season wears on. So even though the team's 2-2 now, we don't know exactly what the future is for Zeke at this point, just because we don't know whether or not the Fifth Circuit's going to overturn the stay. There's uncertainty there, but I still have a pretty good feeling that Zeke is going to play out this season. It'll be next year when he has to serve the 6 games. And I base that just off of looking at the 2 previous years, the Fifth Circuit's, I think, percentage for overturning, or in this case, would be like 15 and 17% respectively. So the odds are on his side. I feel like he's going to play it out, and that's why, even though there's some uncertainty there, I don't want to hit the panic button by any means, even though Dak hasn't looked all that great and the team as a whole has been inconsistent.
Yes, indeed. So it's one of those things that you got to look back on and say, okay, some point I know Zeke told everybody to shut up and stuff like that. But to me, I don't see the burst. I just don't see it. And I wanna like fake like I do see it. And then someone would say, hey, Zeke did rush for so many odd yards. But it's not, the teams are not respecting it as much as they were last year, because I kind of feel like they see the same thing that we see. That pass that he caught out of the flats and he was running up the field, not talking about the last play, but it was somewhere, I think, in the first half or what have you. He got ran down. So it's one of those things that maybe this off the field situation, maybe him, and one could argue and say, okay, yeah, he's still in shape, but when he took his shirt off, man, and showing that half shirt type of
Yeah,
situation,
crop top thing.
crop top. I mean, I could take my shirt off and I have just as amount of stomach muscles that he have, and I'm I'm well off in my 30s. So it's just one of those things that he looks like he's a little bloated to me. But I digress.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. It might be something where if he, assuming he's not suspended this year, where it's not overturned, he might still continue to round into shape. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the distraction that kept him from maybe attacking off season and the same way as he did going into his rookie year, even though he missed a portion, pretty much all of training camp last year. Actually, we saw him against Seattle, but outside of that, he had almost no action. So. I don't know. I'm hoping that he rounds into shape a little bit. I thought he looked better today than he did against Arizona.
He did.
So maybe that's some reason for encouragement there.
Right, he did. He looked a little better today, right? And next week he should look a little better because he's playing himself into football shape, you know. And next year, I don't want to see this again, you know. I was looking at Dalvin Cook. You know, we had an opportunity. I was looking at what's this guy, Will McClay. He was saying that the highest rated player on their draft board at that time was Dalvin Cook. And I'm just looking back in my mind, you know, with the first round pick, just revisionist history, looking back at hindsight 22 type of situation. What if we would just say, hey, stay true to our board. We're not going to window dress our board. We're just going to go with the highest pick on the board. What if we had Dalvin Cook right by now, you know?
Well, I mean, Dalvin Cook probably just blew out his ACL today. We don't know for sure yet, but he was his knee buckled on a non-contact thing. So, I mean, obviously it's a different scenario if he's on your team, but I don't think in that case that you go high. I don't think you go first round running back after taking Zeke. That I don't agree with that assessment. A similar assessment, if you're talking about just from a talent perspective, what round did Joe Mixon go? I mean, I know that's another lightning rod for controversy, and do you really want to pair that with Zeke? But at the same time, if you're looking at it from that perspective, I think he actually went second. I was initially thinking it was third or something, but I think Cincinnati took him in the second. It's one of those things. I think you had too many holes in the defense that you had to address, and I do think the most of those will pan out for the most part. I don't know about Taco either. I think he can be a good run. I don't think he's going to be the defensive end that's going to rack up sacks like we're seeing at Lawrence right now.
Right, and I'm not saying, I know I'll get a lot of hate mail for this. I'm not saying the Cowboys should have went and grabbed Dalvin Cook with the first one. But what I'm saying is just looking back at hindsight, course 2020, with the whole fiasco going through all this offseason. And of course you had Zeke being rookie of the year, well, close to being rookie of the year, had all these running yards and things of that nature. But at some point, I just want this team to stay focused and just come out sharp, you know. Even on the first drive, I didn't like the idea they went with the field goal, you know. They have to figure out a way to punch it in and have the opposition playing on their heels. If not, then we have no chance. But hopefully, like you said, down the line, Taco can get a little bit more seasoned. I know it's kind of like a punchline. But down the line, hopefully he can get a little bit more seasoned, and we can figure out something what to do with him on that defensive front.
You know, something that comes to mind with regard to Dak and his kind of early season struggles with downfield accuracy. You know, I remember reading up, they made a lot about how he was really trying to improve the velocity on his passes this offseason, and how to do that, obviously, he spent a lot of time in the weight room. In some of the instances where we've had short to mid-round or mid-distance passes going off receivers' hands and things like that, week one, we saw what should have been the slant touchdown to Dez right off the bat, and you know, that didn't pan out. I think in some of these cases, it's a matter of just not knowing the touch to put on it, like when to zip it and when to put some touch on it. I think that is somewhat of a factor in his inconsistency. And then with regard to his down the field passing, you know, when he's missing in that, and it doesn't explain all of them, obviously. but he's never been a great downfield passer for the most part. He actually does better when he's on the move. But I do wonder if to some extent his downfield passes are a little bit off just because even though his arm has gotten stronger, it's like it's not as familiar. The muscle memory is not quite as set in at that increased strength, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, but I'm looking at it all together and I'm saying to myself, normally you want it to be a 50-50 ball,
Yeah.
but it's not a 50-50 ball. It's more of a 60-40 ball, meaning 60% of the chance that this ball is going to get batted down or in the wrong direction. Only a 40% chance of Dez catching the ball, So people say 50-50. I'm saying it's a 60-40. Maybe, hell, it's a 70-30 chance because it's just that you got to calculate Dez not playing up to par as we want him to be. And instead is the actual situation where it's Dak. He's not going to put it on the numbers where you want it to be as well when that ball is thrown so far down the field. And this is not us overreacting, but it's just us going by what we both see.
Yeah, I agree. There was definitely a case in the first quarter, I believe it was, where Dez absolutely saved an interception in the end zone. Dak threw it a little bit behind him, and the Rams player had it right in his hands, and Dez just gets enough of a fingertip on it that knocks it loose as the guys go into the ground. So, yeah, I agree with that. And that kind of plays back to what I said before. When we see his best accuracy, Dak's best accuracy going downfield, it's when he's rolling out. It's when he's on the move. For whatever reason, it's uncommon, but he seems so comfortable and at home when he's on the move. The risk of that, obviously, is you don't want to put your quarterback in harm's way. And anytime you're rolling him out, you always run the risk of him getting crushed by a linebacker or something like that. So it's not something you want to do a lot of, but it's what Dak's greatest strength is. And when his accuracy is the most on point, it's almost always from a rollout, at least thus far this season, it seems like.
Right. And you're so right on that. And I just want to touch on this point too as well. I get so many people. I did the Byron Jones film, and I was just saying that he doesn't crash upfield like I want him to. Not saying that I want him to be a thumper. He tend to tackle parallel versus tackling up face to face, head up on the opposition. So what that does is that, of course, when we look back at J.J. Wilcox, although he's not the best cover safety in the world, and we look back at Barry Church, these two guys make you pay when you come across that middle and when you're coming up those seam routes. The type of defensive backs that we have out there now playing the safety role, they're just not going to let you allow you to do that. And Lord knows I love Jeff Heath. And I love Byron Jones. I feel like if you need to somehow get him playing on the line, get him playing against the wide receivers versus him playing out there trying to play free safety, or if you can get Heath to rotate more out of the field and have the younger guys like the Xavier Woods of the world and maybe Kevon Frazier out there, maybe this defense can gel a little bit better out there. But I do know that this staff is very, very, very stuck in their ways, and they rarely make changes like that.
Right. Yeah, I'm still encouraged by what I'm seeing out of Jordan Lewis and Xavier Woods. Kayvon Frazier has showed a little something as of late as well. So I'm very hopeful about some of the youth on this team. I want to see Cheeto get healthy and get on the field, show why he was the top cornerback we took in the second round. But yeah, I think it is something that it's going to gel. It's just going to take some time. I mean, if you looked at the Falcons last year, they had a lot of youth on that defense. And early in the year, their defense was not good. But as it reached the midway point of the season and kind of crept into the final 4 weeks or so, they really rounded into form. And suddenly, they had a really complete team and were able to make that run to the Super Bowl. So maybe it's something that can keep gelling. It's just something that obviously getting guys healthy and staying healthy is going to be a big thing. They need this isn't a young guy by any means, but they need to get Sean Lee back on the field. I think his direction and leadership was sorely missed, particularly in that second half today when the Dallas defense couldn't get off the field and you just saw them start to get gassed.
Yeah, because I really believe that Sean Lee would have been able to pick Todd Gurley apart on certain situations and understood what the young quarterback was trying to do down the field. And I think that was, like you said, sorely missed. But I will be remiss to add too as well is that Durant just looked lost a lot of times, and my guy Jalen Smith, although he had the communicator in his head, they tried him up the field. They did everything that you would think that our offense would do, is to exploit the mismatches, get the running backs and get the linebackers up on their heels and attack down the seam. So using those wheel routes, we have yet to see a deep pass to number 21 Zeke. We had yet to see the utilizations of Cole Beasley. I don't know what's going on this year, but we got to figure out something.
Yeah, Jalen Smith had 10 total tackles, 7 solo on the day, led all Cowboy tacklers. So he even had a quarterback hit, it looks like. Yeah, they're starting to work with him, and it's just a matter of being able to make plays when they're there. We saw a big missed opportunity by Anthony Brown late in that game. He had an interception for the taking, and that would have given Dallas a lot more time to work with and better field position. So it's one of those things where you just have to capitalize when the opportunity's there. And in today's case, where a lot of different Cowboys had a chance to make a play and failed to do so.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, man. But, on a brighter note, we just have to wish and hope that everybody else loses in the division today and tomorrow. And we still 2-2. We above 5. Well, we 500, so we're not in the losing category. We just got to figure out a way to bounce back next week. That's the positive aspect of it, and know that that at least if you start off flat and start off slow in the beginning of the year, hopefully, and I mean hopefully, towards the end we can start gelling together and get hot towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I think, while the Cowboys do obviously have a number of issues that we've already kind of outlined here, I do think we're going to kind of look back as the season goes on, and I think this game is a little bit more of an indicator that the Rams are better than people gave them credit for entering the season. This isn't your Rams team of the last 10 years who win 4, maybe 5 games if it's a decent year. I think this is a Rams team. I don't know that they're going to make the playoffs. They're in a very, very, very tough division historically, but I do think that they're going to probably be, 8, 9, 10 win team if they can put it together, stay healthy. I don't think it's an upset, sure, but it's not like a stunning upset in terms of talent and quality, I think, when you look back on it.
Right. It just gives the talking heads more fire to talk about as far as the Cowboys losing to the Rams. But, yeah, you're right. The Rams are better than what people thought they were, and they got a young team. They was talking about 7 or 6 of the players from defenses, first picks, first round picks. So they got a hell of a defense, and then they got Todd Gurley that's looking like he's back to his Todd Gurley self, and then you got Jared Goff, however you say his name, learning from a young coach who's familiar with the Cowboys defense and offense. So it's one of those things, man. Got hit with the surprise, but I just gonna lay this game still loss on the coaching staff, and a little bit on Switzer. There, I hate to say it, but kid gotta catch the ball. But hey, he'll learn from it. Maybe next week he'll take one to the house, and we'll all look back at this and say, hey, the kid grew.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to put a little bit of this on the offense. I know they put up 32 or 30 points, should have win the game most weeks. But I think I cite the offense because in the first half, they had control. They were moving the ball at will. Second half, they came out a little sloppy, late. We talked about the drops and everything like that. The crucial holding penalty against Travis Frederick. In the first half, the defense did its job. It gave up one touchdown, but it held everything else to field goals, including at one point, if you recall, the Rams electric kickoff returns it to the Dallas 35. Then we get an encroachment on Dallas. 1st and 10 from the Dallas 30 before they've had to do a single thing on offense, the Rams. And they get about 1, maybe 2 yards of offense and have to kick a field goal. The defense early on held its own. It kind of fell apart for them just the longer they were on the field. I felt like they got more and more exposed. And, the reason they got gassed is because in the second half, they played a significant deal more time on the field than the Rams defense had to. So I put that on the offense in that degree.
Yes, indeed. And if we want to go down and look at line by line of the offensive line, the reason why I say this is because think about this. The offensive line continuity has been destroyed. I see a lot of people in the chat box talking about, Miss Ron Leary, see how important Doug Free was and all this. But the problem is that the Cowboys are so loyal to a default that they put Chaz Green, although they know for sure that he's a tackler versus a guard, and they wanted him to start so bad, they put him in a place where he don't belongs, and he ended up getting injured last week, and now they forced Jonathan Cooper to play in right next to Tyron Smith. If you look at it, if you break that part down all by itself, if Chaz Green was never this injury prone type of guy, right, you would have kept Lyle Collins right next to Tyron Smith, and you'd have had Chaz Green playing the right tackle. But by him being just so injury prone and the Cowboys being so loyal to a default, that they jumbled up this offensive line. Now, Ron Leary did a decent job today, but the problem is that the hole was where Cooper was at. They was able to penetrate, push the pocket up, and that's why you saw Dak Prescott tap dancing in the pocket, because he had really no room to go to it, but roll out, and then some of those plays were just gone at that point. So it all falls down on the offensive line not having that continuity.
Yeah, and the Cowboys kind of building off of that point. You mentioned before that Lyle Collins was the left guard before last year, right? So he's naturally left-handed. That's his dominant side. But they moved him to right tackle, so it's playing a little bit counterintuitive in that regard. But before he'd even, I think, played a game, certainly before he played a game, I don't know how much he had even practiced at that position. They gave him a nice extension, and now he's, if not the highest, one of the highest right tackles in the league. So it's one of those things now where it's almost like I don't even know that you could relatively flip it back at this point. So you're kind of set with him at your right tackle, and now your left tackle, or your left guard, is a bit of a question mark as they try and plug in Chaz Green, who, if he stays healthy, which is what we keep saying, if he can stay healthy, he's got ability, and he can be a nice complementary piece to that line. The problem is he is yet through college or through the pros to show that he can stay healthy. And at some point, I think you got to just move on from that, because this is what, his fourth year in the league. His rookie deal has got to be coming up. So I honestly don't know that you invest much of anything in him unless you just think he can be like a swing tackle for you for depth purposes.
At this point, I don't have a slightest clue what they're gonna do with that, because of the loyalty aspect. They so loyal. So, and it just is one of those things, man, that we always gonna have to face through, fight through. So,
right,
we got our hands full next week, though.
Yeah, the road doesn't get any easier. Now you got Green Bay coming to town, and we don't know anything about Elliott, so we could be looking at a healthy dosage of Darren McFadden, who's yet to play this season, and Alfred Morris, who, hey, he had that one phenomenal run. That one run 71 yards, whatever it was, although he got dragged down at the 4, that eclipsed any game he had cumulative, any one game he had last year combined in that one run.
Wow.
So, yeah, you're going to see a lot of, if Zeke ends up serving his suspension now, you're looking at a 4-4 Cowboys with 6 games without the reigning league rushing champion, I should say. And that's a little bit of a scary thing, because that means you might be looking at a lot more kind of dink and dunk Dak, which I know is not what Cowboy fans want to see, but you got to play high percentage passes in this case, and the idea is to move the chains. You're not going to hit the home run ball every time like you would get a lot of with Romo. But, in Romo's case, by the end, it wasn't something where he could stay healthy. Every time he dropped back, you held your breath hoping that somebody didn't, lay a finger on him, because if they did, you're always thinking like, okay, that's probably the one. That's going to be, that's the broken transverse process, or that's the, whatever with his back, some kind of broken or fracture, something to that effect.
Right, and it's just not nice for a quarterback to live through that, or go through that. He got a beautiful wife at the home and 3 beautiful kids, and this guy want to be able to, and then we all know the CTEs and all that stuff. This guy want to be able to take them, out for lunch when they get older. So football is a very vicious sport, and when you can walk away freely, walk away. But it's one of those things that I'm hoping that like I said, next week they can figure out a way for Dak Prescott to look like 2016 Dak Prescott, and Zeke, if he will play, hopefully he get a chance. But the NFL, I think, dropped the ball too as well. The Rams had a lot of time to prepare for the Cowboys. They're well rested. It's a war of nutrition. Who was to say if this game was to be later on in the week, maybe Sean Lee would be able to play. And now we're going to face the same type of scenario with the Green Bay. They have all this time to look at the Cowboys, to scout them and rest up their players. So it's one of those things, guys.
Yeah, that's called a first place schedule. When you're coming off a 4-12 season, you're going to get a more favorable schedule. That's why the years recently when Dallas has kind of taken the league by storm, 2014 and 2016, they were coming off of favorable schedules, or coming off of disappointing seasons in the other 4-12. And it allowed them to get momentum early in the season by kind of getting to take on these weaker schedules. Now, their season schedule ended up being fairly tough at the end of last year, but early on, they were able to kind of build momentum. And it's the polar opposite when you're coming off a good year. You're going to have these tough matchups. You're going to have the tough turnarounds and things like that. Like you said, the Rams had 10 days to rest. Now Green Bay is going to have some extra time as well. So it's just one of those things. You gotta grind through it, and you gotta try and kind of gel together and get to the point where you can kind of get everything moving and get past it.
Right. But we're both not making excuses. I'm just looking at the people in the chat box. We're not making excuses, but it's one of those things that you got to stand up and fight. And that's just the NFL altogether.
Yep. It's a put up or shut up league, definitely. And
right.
Yeah. It's, you can say what you want about their inconsistency or how good or how bad you think they might be, but at the end of the day, they're 2-2, and they're in a division where 2-2 has you nowhere near outside of, the picture of relevance. The Giants are the ones who at this point are in a real bad position and have to kind of figure out what they're going to do. Cowboys, Eagles, Redskins, even if the Eagles and Redskins both win this week, I'm still not worried about the division race, in all honesty, because I think Washington's been every bit as inconsistent as Dallas has been. And the Eagles, I think the Eagles are probably the biggest threat to the NFC East crown this year. But that's not to say that they don't have their own problems as well. So That's the magic of football. You build, you grow, and you just kind of see where things are at when you get to that later stages of the season. Sometimes you'll find yourself with a completely different team than you thought you had early on.
No doubt. And with that in mind, I can guarantee you, talking Patriots right now, they're not worried. They're 2-2 too as well, defending Super Bowl champions. So at the same time, we are in a good situation. Now, I know we talked a lot about the Cowboys, but did you get a chance to see the Texans put up 50 some points?
I didn't see anything of it. I saw that Watson had 5 touchdowns, which tied a rookie record.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, who are they playing again?
I think the Tennessee Titans or something. I looked on my phone and said maybe there's something wrong with my phone, and I kind of kept on trying to refresh my phone,
Yeah.
and it says 57 to like 14. I was like, my
Wow.
God.
Yeah, if that's against the Titans, that's really surprising too, because I've been pretty impressed with what I've seen out of Tennessee so far this year.
So hopefully we can have like a game where we put up 45, or have a blowout victory against someone who's a caliber team. Because the Titans, I think, is a good defensive team. So I don't know. I have to go back and rewatch their game. But it's just one of those things, guys, that Cowboys, our offense, although we got 30 on the board, we still look like, man, what is going on? So hopefully we
Well,
can
think of
figure
it
it out.
this way: if you can put
Mhm.
up 30 when your offense is off rhythm and your elite running back isn't getting 100 yards, imagine what your offense will be capable of if you can kind of round anywhere back into form like 2016.
No doubt, no doubt. So anything else you want to bring up or show and bring to attention?
Uh, no, I mean, right now it just kind of boils down to what we're looking at with Zeke's situation moving forward and getting some guys back and healthy. You got to pretty much David Irving has to be ready to hit the ground running, because what you saw a lot of today is after the Rams were not going to let DeMarcus Lawrence beat him. I know he got a strip sack, but they were triple teaming him at times, running back, tight end, and a lineman. And they basically had one-on-one matchups across the board after that. And Dallas needs that second guy who can put pressure and who can do something. And David Irving, with his length and athleticism, I think is exactly what they need. So if he's ready to hit the ground running, this defensive line could be a monster moving forward.
Right, you can't double team everyone. I do see people saying that Paya was overrated. Push the pocket. You're not going to get a lot of tackles from defensive tackles or the
Right.
guy that played in the 3 and the 1. You're not going to get that type of sacks that they're looking for. But
Yeah.
he pushed the pocket back. It's just that Jared Goff, right? It's Jared Goff, right? That's his name.
Golf. Yeah.
Goff. This guy can get the ball. He was doing it when he was playing for Cal. He gets the ball out real quick, Or whoever, he played for Cal, right?
Yes.
He was getting the ball out when I was looking at this film. His footwork, his feet placement. It's just that Jeff Fisher didn't know how to get his mechanics all together. And I'm telling you, this guy, he stepped it up. He got a good receiver in Cup. He got a good receiver in number 12. And then he got a dynamic running back. And Higby, the tight end, he was chipping the edges off and then rolling out, catching the ball in the flat. So they had a real good game plan for the Cowboys. And I know a lot of people is going over cover 2 defense. Yeah, yeah, cover 2 defense is easy to break down, especially the middle and the seam of the field is going to be open. And just the outer edge is not going to be open in the cover 2. And by his primary playing cover 2, always look for the slants in the middle of the seam routes to be open. And that's why you got to have somebody to put a hat down on the guy when they come across that middle.
Right.
That's what people fail to realize. I'm not talking about Byron Jones of the world. I'm not talking about a Jeff Heath. You got to explode on a player, and you got to play quick, and the linebacker got to be calling out the zones in the middle reads there. If not, you're going to see a lot of scores, a lot of points on a game.
Yeah, absolutely. Tying back real quick to when we were talking about Dalvin Cook earlier, he has a nearly completely torn ACL according to initial diagnosis.
My goodness.
So yeah, so he's certainly done for the year. Vikings, man, they cannot catch a break with regard to their players and their knees. Bridgewater, Bradford, Dalvin Cook. I mean, yeah. So it's health is everything in this league. You can have the pieces. Vikings have a very strong defense. You can have all the pieces in the world, but if you can't stay healthy, man, it doesn't amount to anything.
Goes back to the war of nutrition, Yeah, although I don't like Eli always stayed healthy. Although I'm not too fond of Tom Brady stayed healthy collectively throughout his career. Only had the one scare with the ACL or whatever tear. And
Yep.
even Peyton Manning, he stayed healthy for the majority of his career outside of the neck injuries. So if you can get a player that can stay healthy, and if you can find a way to escape and get from under your running back after 3 to 4 years, then because running back's not going to last forever,
Yeah, no.
6 or 7 years, running back, it's time to get them out,
Yeah, and I even have that thought with regard to Zeke. I don't see Zeke being a guy that is here for a second contract. I really don't. Even if his legal issues go away and they never surface again, I don't see that being the case. I think, like we saw with DeMarco Murray, Dallas is going to it's a cruel thing to some extent. It's a cruel world in that regard, but they're going to run you into the ground, ride you as far as you can take them, and then they're not going to pay you, 10 million plus a year, to add to the wear on the tires and all of that. They're going to then look and pick up the next back prospect or, solid running back, whatever, in the draft and go from there.
And I think that analysis was done many years before I was even born. I think the Cowboys had the opportunity to draft Walter Payton, but they went with Randy White because they knew that he would be 10 years in the league,
Right.
Although it's a horrible gamble, but hey, Randy White, Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winning champion too as well. So it's one of those things that, you have to pick your poison.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, like we've said before, hindsight's always 2020. And when we drafted Zeke, everyone always wants to say, well, Jalen Ramsey or Zeke, which was the better call. Last year, Zeke, in the short term, Zeke was. Long term, I don't know. Jalen Ramsey has been beyond elite so far this year. According to Pro Football Focus, I think he's the top rated corner right now. And you look at that, and then you look at Derrick Henry going early second round, and you can't help but kind of wonder, like, I know there's no way they could have known that at the time, but man, if you added Jalen Ramsey and had then picked up Derrick Henry, who this year has looked quite good, the line we already have, where would we be right now? It's hard to say, but
without Jalen Smith, right? Well, Jalen
yeah,
was third
that's
round. Was
true.
he third? Was he the third or second round?
Jalen was a second. Yeah, so that's the other aspect there that I didn't even point out immediately. So yeah, it's a debate, and it's hard to say. I mean, who knows? I mean, we took him in the second. Who's to say someone wouldn't, or who's to say he wouldn't have still been there in the third?
Right.
We can't know, because we know what we do know is our team doctor is who did his surgery, and that's why we felt bold enough to take him where we did.
Right. Yes, indeed. And then can you only imagine if Randy Gregory didn't have that weed issue, and you have him coming out the one end, and you have D-Law coming out the other?
Yeah, absolutely.
It would have been a scary defense.
Yeah. Yep. But so what closing thoughts do you have regarding this week, this 35-30 loss to the Los Angeles Rams?
Well, it's going to be heartbreaking. But I would close with this. Cheeto Bayawuzie needs to get out there on the field next week or the following weeks if he can. And we need to figure out somehow, some way to get this offensive line back sparking up. I don't know if Jason Witten is there. I have to look at some film on him, but hopefully they can give us some more information on Rico. Maybe he can get his playing legs up under him. Maybe he can get some way get it past the what you call that?
Right.
The
concussion, yeah. So Rico's on the IR list, set to return, but he can't return until 6 weeks up of the season.
Okay.
So they have a bye week, I think week 6 this year. So he'll have one more game, I believe, where he's out, and then I think he's eligible to return after the bye.
I appreciate the insight on that. So it's one of those things, man. We know we know we're gonna get. It's gonna be a high scoring game next week, regardless.
Yeah, no, that's the only way Dallas is going to win is if it's high scoring. They're not going to. They don't have the defense right now to win a low scoring game with anyone. I don't think. Arizona still was hanging around in that game even without David Johnson. So in Arizona, without David Johnson, their offense is it's a lost identity. They don't know. They can't do anything they really want to do without David Johnson. So the fact that they were still hanging around just under 20 points and hanging around in that game until that second 50-yard bomb to Bryce Butler kind of broke it open. I think that's got to be stated as well. If the team is going to win right now, Dak and Zeke have to put it on their back, and Dez.
Right. So in closing, for me, I'm just gonna say this: I had us winning against the Rams and actually losing against the Green Bay. Hopefully, I'm wrong of us losing against Green Bay because we lost against the Rams.
Right.
But I just don't see us beating Green Bay. Unfortunately, their defense looked better. Then
Mm-hmm.
they have a better quarterback than Jeff Goff. I see Jeff Goff,
Jared
Jared
Goff.
Goff. I've been destroying this guy's name, and they got a cover two defenses. Always have problems with tight ends, and they got an elusive, physical, very good tight end out in space. I don't care about the Adams kid not being able to play. They still have a shifty. Um, Slot receiver
Cobb.
that we're gonna have to worry about, and it's a Dallas game, right?
Yes, it's at
So
Dallas.
it's at Dallas, so we quote unquote don't have necessarily a home field advantage. I'm not trying to cast aspersions on our team stadium, but it's one of those things that you don't have the elements to help you out this time around or any time around in this field a play, and you're gonna look at a high scoring game. I hate to say it, man. I just see us catching this L. I just hate to say it though, but
Right now, the idea is to survive and to regroup. I think that's got to be the recipe for Dallas right now. If they can pull out a win against Green Bay, that's awesome. That's exactly what they need. But it's going to be a challenge. I had them today. My pick was Rams 32, Dallas 24, or no, 26. So I was fairly close in that regard, but I would have much rather been wrong in that case. So hopefully they get it next week and they can. Dak's always answered pretty well. Even it took half of that Arizona game before he responded, but when he did, he responded well. So we got to hope that we see that trend continue and that he comes out against Green Bay and that he's somehow able to kind of pick up where he left off from that playoff game.
no doubt. Hopefully they play with a little vicious anger. Hopefully by me picking against the Cowboys finally, we do the inverse or something. But
Yeah.
that's all I have for today. I'm losing my voice altogether. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I thank everybody for supporting the channel. Don't forget to go follow the Dallas Prospects is also on the Facebook channels and the Facebooks of the worlds. Don't forget to tweet out to the Dallas Prospects too as well, and tweet out to me at Law Nations and follow the Instagram page. The game will be posted later on today on my Facebook page, the full entirety of the game and a 45-minute interval or what have you. And you guys enjoy. I know it's a bittersweet type of game, but we can still look back at things and see where we need to improve at and things of that nature. That's been my time. I really thank you guys for yours. I'm out. Salute.